Welcome to another episode of A Migrant's Journey. This is episode number 42. I forgot to say good evening, didn't I? So, good evening and welcome to Migrant's Journey. This is episode number 42. And, we have had 41 amazing stories so far. Please head on to my YouTube channel. There's a list or there's a playlist that you can binge on. If you're watching this for the first time, A Migrant's Journey is set up to share real life job search stories of migrants. When you think about migration, mostly it's like a rosy picture. It's all a dream come true. You just move and everything works out, but often that's not the case. The initial job search is a real struggle, and it's primarily due to difference in expectations, cultures, and various other factors. So my agenda over here is to give you a reality check of what happens, so that when you are planning to migrate, or if you're already here, you can understand what has to be done and what are the things that other people have done. If you're watching this live on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, please say hi, hello, good evening. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments, so that the more noise you make, social media likes noise better, and it will promote this video more, and more people will see it, and more people will get help from this, and it'll make me happier as well. So that's a side effect of it. So today I have a special guest with me. I have Sanju with me, who is another pandemic success story, I would say. We have been having a few pandemic success stories, and I think when I started this series, the number one demand is, can you interview someone who has found a job in the pandemic situation? So here I have Sanju with me, who found a job in Melbourne during this lockdown, during the pandemic situation. So let me invite him. Hi Sanju, how are you today?
Hi, hi Vinesh. I'm good. Thank you. How about you?
Good to see you again. So let's get straight into things, Sanju. Who are you and
Mhm.
what do you do?
Yeah, so my name is Sanju. I am basically from Kerala in India. I'm a software engineer by profession, and I moved to Australia last year, April 2019.
Hmm.
And then before moving to Australia, I was actually working in Bangalore. I have more than like 10 years of experience.
Hmm.
I was working with HP before moving here. And then last year in June, I actually found a job here in Melbourne. I actually initially came to Sydney, and then from
Yeah,
there I moved to Melbourne last year in the month of June
yeah.
2019.
So before we get into that, let's get
Yeah.
a bit more details. Um, when you decided that, hey, you're migrating to Australia,
Mhm.
what sort of preparation did you do before you moved to Australia? I mean, what research, and how did you find details about the industry, or did you connect to people from that? So what sort of activities did you do before migrating to Australia?
Okay. Yeah. So before, so all this, so I came on a PR. So basically,
Hmm.
all the process of this PR, I actually did it on my own. I didn't come through any agent, or so everything I
Oh,
did it on my
that's
own.
interesting.
So I actually I was actually targeting to move to Canada first. So
Hmm.
I started my research and looking at, because it's close to US, and I had some work experience in the US as part of my work in India.
Hmm.
So I thought like, okay, let's move to a place which is close to the US, and then I started my research around Canada.
Hmm.
I got into the express entry pool, and somehow I couldn't get a call. I was not picked up from the pool for almost 6 months. And then After that, I thought like, okay, why not apply for Australia? Then that's the next better option at that point.
Yeah.
And then once I applied to for the Australian PR, I got it within like 2 months. And
Oh, really?
then
That
yeah,
was quick.
so then all my focus there I shifted towards the job market in Australia.
Hmm.
And to be honest, yeah, before coming here, I didn't have much of a preparation. I had just set up my my resume, my LinkedIn. I actually started applying for some posts through Seek,
Hmm.
but that didn't work out.
Okay.
I was not getting any calls, or even if
Yeah.
I get a call, they were not like interested once they know that I'm in India.
Hmm.
So that's how it
So,
worked out.
so
So
quick question: how was the process between Canada and Australia PR? Was it similar or?
yeah, it's like, I mean, it's pretty much similar. So once
Okay.
you are through the, the IELTS and the, the certificate valuations and things like that, everything is similar. So you can
Okay.
actually use the same documents and everything for
Right.
the Australian thing
That's
also.
good.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah,
So now let's come back to Australia. Now, yes, yeah, I think when you mentioned that with regards to job search, you probably did not prepare much. So how was your first experience over Australia? Like, how was your job search? You mentioned that you found a job in June itself, I think last year, but how
yeah.
how was that first job search over here?
Yeah, so the first time it actually took, if you see, it took around 2 months
Hmm.
for me to get my first break. So the first couple of weeks, yeah, it went off. I was in a totally new country and I was like totally lost, to be
Hmm.
frank. And I was like, so the first couple of weeks went in jobs. I mean, the house search and things like that. I had very few friends here and no relatives at all.
Hmm.
So I just had one or two friends here, and just so the initial weeks just went away, like meeting up with them, and then I was all on my own. So then I started, the job search, and literally for 1 month. I mean, I started the same way we do in India. So
Yeah.
we send the resumes or we apply on LinkedIn and we keep waiting. So for 1 month, to be frank, I didn't get a single call in the first month. So I started pondering like what's happening. So then, I started understanding the way it works here in Australia. It's totally different than how it is
Hmm.
back in India. I started like, it was way before all this pandemic came. So
Hmm.
then I started going out and meeting recruiters, or joining some of the meetups, and then I started seeing the traction happening.
Hmm.
And then I think after 1 month, I actually got my the first call itself. So that was how it worked out for me
Yeah,
here.
brilliant. So if people are wondering, hey, that's the end of story. No, we are not focusing on that right today. So Sanju, unfortunately, did your contract end or were
uh,
you impacted?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was actually, I mean, in March, actually my contractor got extended by a year.
Okay.
So it was until next year, 2021, so in
Hmm.
March. So, but after that, the pandemic came, and in June,
Yeah.
I came to know that okay,
Yeah.
they are going to cut short my contract.
Yeah.
So it
So
was like good news followed by bad news.
okay, so the story today is about a lot of people have this notion that once they get their first break, the second break is easy, or the second break, you just come along like that. But any job search has its own difficulties. Doesn't matter if you have local experience, if you have PR, you have whatever you have, it doesn't matter. Any job search has its own difficulties, and today, like Sanju mentioned, we'll focus about how his second job search went. You acquired about 1 year of local experience, but still you had a lot of other obstacles. So what happened, or how was your job search this time round, Sanju?
Yeah, so this time it was totally different. So what happened is, once I got the job, the first job, so I moved to Melbourne, and my office, I joined a company called GE here,
Hmm.
and their office was in the suburb. So I kind of once I got into the job, I I one of the other mistakes that I did was I kind of slowed down on the LinkedIn.
Hmm.
So when I was doing my first job search, I had actually set up all my LinkedIn, started, getting into the networking stuff. But as I got my first job, and as it was in the suburbs, and like here in Melbourne, most of the meetups they happen in the CBD. So I was not like able to join many of those meetups as well, and I slowed down on the LinkedIn networking part.
Hmm.
And so what happened is once I knew that my contract is getting coming to an end, I was back to square one. So I
Hmm.
had to like again start all my I had to brush up everything, like
Yeah.
the resume, the LinkedIn. So it was again as if starting from scratch.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's how. And during that time I actually I joined one of your meetups.
Hmm.
And luckily, it's a blessing in disguise, but the pandemic came in during that time, and we all shifted towards meeting over virtually.
Virtually. Yeah.
So that's the time I actually joined one of your meetups, and then came to know about JLB, and joined JLB, and yeah, that's how it went away from there.
Yeah, awesome. So, if any of you are thinking we are in a pandemic lockdown and we can't network, this is a perfect example of how you can turn around things. So, I would also like to share that Sanju is my actually my first paid client to get a job. So that is a super special thing as well. Like you said, he was part of the job search like a boss initiative that I started, which you saw the ad in the beginning. So, what did that do for, or how did you structure? I'm not talking. I don't want to talk about JLB. How did you structure your job search after that, and how did that help you? The situation is hard, especially being in a pandemic, being in a lockdown. There are tons of pressures and frustrations that come to you. But how did you structure or sail through that job search? I think it lasted what 3 months. I think so.
Yeah.
How did that go for you?
Yeah, so this time around it was totally different, right? So even like you're in a pandemic and you're in Melbourne,
Hmm.
and the number of jobs are relatively less here in Melbourne at this point than when you compare to the other places in Australia. And before the pandemic, the pandemic started, like you can even apply like for jobs outside Melbourne, and you can network with people outside. You can even go and talk to people. But
Hmm.
with this situation, it was difficult. Talking to, going and meeting people, right? So
Yeah.
that was one of the challenges. So I think at that point, I think I and there was, you're locked up at home also. So it was like JLB was one way of networking with people who are in the same situation like yours. And how it helped me is like, before that I was job searching, but it was not ordered. Like there were many gaps, like the way I was doing my job search,
Hmm.
uh, like the resume part, the LinkedIn part, and even the networking, right? And the way I used to apply for jobs also was quite different. So once I started networking with people through your platform, and through LinkedIn, I came to, every meeting is like a learning. Like you get one or two tips from people who have been in the same situation, or who are going
Yeah.
through the same situation. So that helped a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, so interesting. So I like that how talking people was kind of talking to people or talking to people, whether it's in JLB or outside the network, that was key for you to maintain that sanity during that job search.
Yeah,
That's a
true.
different thing, right? I mean, when you hear other stories, what others are going through, you kind of for one, you kind of calm yourself doing that. You're not alone in this journey, and second thing is you get inspired from them and tend to push more as well.
Yeah.
And that we have seen that in GLB a lot as well. So Finally, how did this happen? How did you manage to secure a role? Was there anything special, or is it like you just applied online and things just work out? What's the story behind that?
Yeah, so once I joined, I mean, these kind of initiatives, I realized that okay, just applying online, keeping applying online doesn't work out. So I actually, I mean, narrowed down to a couple of companies that I am interested. I mean, I'm into the embedded
Mm,
systems domain. So, and if you see in Melbourne or in Australia as such, the opportunities in that area is less compared to like Java full stack developer or those kind of things.
yeah.
You have a lot of opportunities, but comparatively, the number of opportunities are less in the embedded systems domain. So I just focused, on a couple of companies that I am interested in,
Mm,
narrowed it down, and even when there is an opening that came up in Seek or on LinkedIn, I would spend some time like working on the cover letter, resume. So I have actually changed my resume like at least like 50 times, over the so every time I mean, like there is a opening, I spend more time on than just applying for more openings to
yeah.
just focus on one particular opening and then structure your cover letter, resume, and all according to that opening, and then
Hmm.
apply for that. Yeah,
Yeah. So I think the quality versus quantity
yeah,
theory applies here. Most job seekers think that the more you apply, the better chance of you to get a job, but it doesn't work that way. It's counterproductive. The more time you spend on a role that is actually matching for you, the better application you're putting in. If you just spray your resume, the same resume to hundreds of roles, you may or may not get a call back, which is not an ideal situation to be in. And I've heard hundreds of stories, and most say going for quality in the end uh, not only helps you make a better application, it also kind of calms you down, as in you don't get hundreds of rejections in your email anymore. You just get rejections for
yeah.
the stuff that you applied. That's also there. So I'm so happy that things eventually worked out for you. It was a really good experience, and you have inspired a lot of people within JLB as well. So if you can give some advice to new migrants or international students out here, what would that be? I mean, especially with culture, there's a huge shift in culture, what happens in other countries and what happens here. So what would your advice for them be?
Yeah, so for new migrants and international students, I know for international students, it's kind of a tough period right now.
Mm,
But I still, hear a lot of stories like if people put the right effort, and if they, I mean, do all their preparation. Like one mistake that I realize now, if I had to redo things, I would have, before even coming here, I see a lot of people doing that right now over LinkedIn. Even a lot of migrants who are, they actually are doing all the homework, networking part of that homework right when they're staying in India, than coming here and then starting that. So that is one critical advice that I would give to
yeah.
anybody who is planning to migrate here, to start their the homework, like start networking with people, start following companies that they are interested in,
Mm,
and in LinkedIn, and start talking to people who are actually working in those companies, like so that actually has helped me also in my in the second job search, like uh, networking with people through LinkedIn, like making meaningful connections with people who are actually working the same domain as yourself, and understanding like what kind of role they are in, and what needs to get into those roles. So talking to those people, and especially in this pandemic situation, everybody is very understanding. You connect with anybody and you ask for a help, that you get help from 100 places, like unexpected places that uh, you knock at. So I would say, like, even if people are in their home country and they're planning to, they can actually start their all their homework uh, through LinkedIn when they are in
Yeah.
India. I mean, in their home country. Yeah.
Excellent advice, Sanju. Thanks for that. So before I reflect on that, I see comments coming on LinkedIn, but I think there's a bug which shows that there is only one viewer on LinkedIn. So if you're watching this and if you're not asleep, please ask questions or say hi or hello, so that I know that you're watching, and I can reflect back on that. Um, Great points that you mentioned, Sanju. Over there, a lot of people ask me, especially now that the pandemic, because the international borders are closed, you can't travel to Australia. So what do they do from wherever they are right now? One, applying online is probably not the best thing that you can do when you're not here in Australia. Instead, start building these foundations. Research what companies you can work for. Connect to people in those companies. Build meaningful connections. That's one word that you mentioned, meaningful connections, not just a random LinkedIn connection. It doesn't really help. So these are the things you can. I think we already have a couple of people in JLB who are not. I think Jubin was from Dubai and Yesti was also in India when we start kicked this off. So there you can do a tons of things in India. It doesn't necessarily mean you will get a job. That is probably not on the table, but that foundation that you lay, and when you come here, you know what to do. That can create a huge boost for you as a job seeker. So absolutely golden advice, Sanju. Thanks for sharing that. Now, last question for you, Sanju. How was your experience? I mean, we have interacted a lot of times. You've been in my meetup. You have been following me for some time. I think you are one of the viewers of Migrants Journey as well, and
Yeah.
eventually in JLB as well. So, how do you think the impact of having a coach, anyone like me or any other person? What does it bring to you, and how did that can that help you? This is like an advice to job seekers who don't know what a coach does or are hesitating in spending some money on a coach. What impact did it do to you?
Yeah. So, like when you have somebody, when you are part of a community, when you have a help of a coach, right? You are actually in a new country, and there are many small things that you are not aware of. And your job search, you might be doing your job search, but it might not be. It'll be all over the place. So once, I mean, the big difference for me was once I started interacting with people like Vinesh and a lot of people here in Australia. So the main difference was the whole job search becomes a bit structured. Like you get your resume proper, you get your LinkedIn profile correctly, and then you also start. I mean, to get to know how differently you have to search, like not just applying, rather than applying, just build your network, talk to people, and then that's a different way of applying for a job. So that's how you I mean, that's the benefit that you get when you interact with the job coaches, and they actually kind of guide you in how you can do a better job search than a structured way of searching for a job.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's important to get help. Like Sanju said, you're in a new country. Things were completely different over here. Even if you think you can figure things out, and even if you think Google is your friend, which it is, but you still have to have some solid advice as in what happens here. Otherwise, you'll be just all over the place. Like Sanju said, you keep changing your resume. You never know if this is right or if you're doing some mistake. Instead, if there is someone to tell you, hey, this is a good format and this is what looks good, that'll be a great thing. So thank you for saying that, Sanju. I see a lot of comments coming in, a lot of hi hellos back to you. And Sauradeep said something. He is one of the early guests in my migrants journey. So he also said, we have all made that mistake, spanning our resume everywhere. A lot of people who have been part of this migrants journey have said, spamming or applying hundreds of applications a week doesn't give you any benefit in real. So thanks for sharing that. I think that's that from me, Sanju. Anything that I missed, anything that you'd like to add, or
Yeah, so thanks for having me. I mean,
No
on
worries.
this platform, right? So I have actually followed most of your migrant journey, stories, and that has actually helped me in my journey as well. So uh, I would be like, I mean, very grateful if my story has becomes helpful for somebody else, and also
Absolutely.
I'm open to, like, if somebody, I mean, it's a pandemic situation, and like, if somebody needs any help, I also would be really open to helping them in whatever way I can. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks. How can people reach out to you, Sanju? On would LinkedIn be the best way?
Yeah, on LinkedIn. Yeah, on LinkedIn people
All
can
right.
reach out.
All
Yeah.
right. So thank you so much for sharing your story. I mean, I think I've been a part of your job search journey for a long time, and it was wonderful to see, you getting through the process and eventually finding success, which was a really huge inspiration for our community and our group as well. So thank you for being a part of this, and I hope that this journey will inspire a lot of people out there. If you have any questions for us at all, please leave a comment. I'll get back to you, or I'll reach back to you, or reach out to me. And if you want to know more about JLB, just go to my website vineshpalan.com/JLB, and you can find more details there. Otherwise, thank you so much for having for coming here, Sanju, and it was a
Yeah.
pleasure talking to you, seeing you again,
Yeah.
and I'll
Same here.
see you all sometime next week. Bye bye.
Okay. Same here. Thank you.